Senator Fateh.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm happy to introduce Senate File 817, which is a bill to improve the planning, policy, and finance of major highway projects in Minnesota. This bill will enhance community engagement and strengthen planning processes to ensure that highway investments are environmentally conscious, fiscally responsible, and reflective of the priorities of local communities. Every year, our state spends billions of taxpayer dollars on major highway projects across the state. While investments in our state's transportation system are critical, we also have a responsibility to ensure that these funds are being spent wisely and that projects are benefiting the communities they proclaim to serve. This bill has three main components that address various shortcomings within the existing MnDOT planning process. The first component, found in Section 2, clarifies the definition of highway purposes to include all modes of transportation, including transit and active transportation, in addition to roadway infrastructures for cars and trucks. This provision honors the intent of the constitutional amendment that established our state's trunk highway system, which permitted funding for all reasonable means of communication along trunk highway corridors. The current system of construction and maintenance is simply not viable. We are building lane miles faster than our population is growing. We're experiencing more people killed on Minnesota roadways, and there is an $18 billion unfunded maintenance liability that no one has any idea how to pay. We need the flexibility to do more and better with less, but the current highway purposes language takes many of the safest, most cost-efficient options off the table. Focusing on the goal of moving people and goods efficiently is the fundamental goal of this bill. Our state has the responsibility to keep all road users safe and provide a variety of transportation options for Minnesotans along our trunk highway system. Trunk highways take vastly different forms in communities across our state, and we should allow funding flexibility to meet the varying transportation needs of all these communities. Colorado took similar action in 2013 to clarify purpose in statute, and this is a fiscally responsible and pragmatic step that aligns with our Constitution's intent and better serves the mobility needs of Minnesotans across our state. So the bill has a second component, which centers on respecting the voices of local Minnesota communities and the elected officials who represent them. This provision would give elected officials and the communities they represent a meaningful advisory role in major highway project decisions beyond the symbolic consultation that we see today. It's deeply troubling to see local, county, and state officials continue to be ignored in a planning process that will have significant consequences for our communities. This leads to costly project changes and loss of public trust. The bill addresses this problem in two ways. First, the provision requires that MnDOT creates a policy advisory committee, or PACs, for all major highway projects. PACs are committees composed of elected officials representing the communities bordering the project corridor. This would only apply to large projects involving the construction of rehabilitation of a highway. It does not apply to smaller maintenance projects, and MnDOT currently creates PACs for most major projects. However, this provision formalizes this existing process and sets requirements for how PACs are created and administered. This includes setting requirements for the frequency and structure of PAC meetings. Secondly, this provision gives PAC members a meaningful advisory role by creating bylaws and requiring PAC approval as one of the many steps the MnDOT commissioner takes before selecting a preferred design or begins construction of a major highway project. This will enhance the democratic accountability and uplift local needs and community preferences in major highway decisions. Based on MnDOT's recommendations, the amendment we added today creates bylaws to define how the committee will operate and add specificity to the process. We will work also to clarify when this component applies to maximize impact and minimize administrative burden. This bill has a final provision as well, which creates a mechanism to address the health impacts that highways have inflicted on Minnesota communities across our state. According to the MPCA, air pollution played a role of about 10% of deaths in metropolitan areas across the state, and traffic emissions are often the biggest source of pollution. Research has linked highway emissions with increased risk of cancer, dementia, stunted lung growth, childhood asthma, and heart disease. However, the existing MnDOT environmental review process often overlooks impacts on local air pollution by relying on measures of regional compliance. This provision establishes a cumulative impacts process for major highway projects that builds upon the ongoing rulemaking for the 2023 MPCA Cumulative Impacts Law, which focuses on permitted facilities. And this bill lays out a robust public process for considering cumulative impacts, which are the combined effects of multiple actions or events over time when major highways are planned through designated environmental justice communities. This provision also adds the additional accountability mechanism within MnDOT by creating an environmental justice ombudsperson position, serving as an independent watchdog at MnDOT. Collectively, these three provisions give MnDOT a structure to be accountable to their own goals, which are laid out in Statute 174.01, which state law directs MnDOT to, quote, provide multimodal and intermodal transportation facilities and services to increase access for all persons and businesses and to ensure economic well-being and quality of life without undue burden placed on any community, end quote. This bill and all its components were carefully designed to be compliant with existing structures, including NEPA. This bill will improve project efficiency, reduce delays, and lower costs by addressing concerns upfront rather than making expensive modifications or facing legal challenges later. Furthermore, flexible funding will allow us to build projects that reflect the varying transportation needs of communities across the state. I encourage you to support this important step toward rebuilding public trust in the state's ability to build a transportation system that works for everyone. And with that, Mr. Chair, I'll pass it to the testifiers that come up.
Thank you, Senator Fateh. I think